Hi, I'm Lindsey Matthews, and the topic that I chose for my final project is women in religion. Women's role within religion has evolved in many different ways over the years. While they are currently making progress, there's still a great deal of work to be done before equality within religion is met. When we think about different roles within religion, who comes to your mind first? This might not be something that you've thought of before, but I think that a lot of people in our culture would probably say maybe a priest or maybe a pastor. And when you think of those people filling those roles, are they usually women? The answer to that would be no. When we think of powerful positions within religion, we usually think of a man. When we think of women within religion, we might think of Mother Mary or a nun. And while those are both important figures, they're not necessarily positions of religious power by any means. So why is that? So women's roles within religion differs depending on the culture and the religion itself. However, regardless of the religion, there's usually one thing in common, and it's a noticeable gender gap. The width of this gap varies, but in almost every circumstance it is there. Leadership roles are often held by men, and women are working hard to change that. But before we can understand the efforts they are making, let's first get a better insight into the history of women in religion and why they aren't seen in roles of religious power. Religion is very dependent on the surrounding culture and vice versa. When the creation of many religious texts were being developed, no one was really thinking of women as powerful people. Later, when the more structured systems of churches, mosques, and other places of worship started to take shape, women were still not thought of as powerful, nor did they have many rights at all. So it didn't necessarily make sense for them to place women in a role of power when they didn't have power in any other context. So for example, if a woman didn't even have the right to vote, why would we suddenly place them in a role as a priest or a pastor? It just didn't really make sense at the time. And while women's rights have obviously evolved immensely over time, their roles within religion have remained the same. And this is mostly because people don't look at religion as something that can be a changed system. A lot of people, when they think of their beliefs, they're pretty set in stone, and they really try to hold on to that historical context as much as possible. So even in today's world, the majority of religions allow only men to hold positions of religious power. This is despite the fact that studies have shown women to be more religious overall. It has been shown that 60% of women actually consider religion to be one of the most important aspects of their life, while only 47% of men reported religion as the most important aspect of their life. And you can see that illustrated on the graphic on this slide. It actually breaks it up per location. Women today are oppressed and treated differently in numerous ways depending on their religion, despite the fact that they might have more faith. For example, in some religions, women are not permitted to pray alongside men. They cannot hold positions of power, as we have seen, and in some cases aren't even allowed inside certain places of worship. However, they are often required to abide by certain restrictions in their everyday life put in place by religion. For example, we saw in our movie on Islam that women are expected to stay covered and are to be quiet in the presence of men, as well as many other practices that I think a lot of us could agree negatively impact their daily life. So as you can probably imagine, women are becoming a bit fed up and want equality within worship. They've just as strong, if not stronger, faith, and yet they're not permitted any amount of freedom or leadership within their worship and within their religion. So to work towards this change, they're creating activist groups that feature feminist theologians and highlight the importance of women in all roles, but particularly those within religion. They've started to challenge the norms and have had many significant achievements. A few examples of these achievements include the introduction of women pastors, female-run mosques, and in Islam, a campaign has been launched to build support and legal reform towards equality and justice for women living in Muslim contexts. And these are really just a few examples. There are many, many other ways that women have really put forth an effort to have their voice be heard within religion. While their efforts are good, there is still a great deal of work to be done. So you might be thinking, all of this sounds good, but unfortunately, the reason I say there's still more work to be done is because while this is happening in some places of worship, others are more resistant. And this is because just as there were people who did not want women to obtain more rights in society, there are also many people that don't believe their roles in religion should be changed. A lot of this has to do with how grounded people are in their beliefs and how much wiggle room they are allowing for their religion to evolve along with normal society. Because many religions have historically been male-dominated, it will take some time for things to change and people within religion to become more accepting of women in religious power roles and more rights for women within religion. And while this might not feel super close to home, it's really not unique to any one culture or any one religion. And the next time you're at your local place of worship, I invite you to look around and try to pay attention to the different gender roles taking place right here at your local church in Wilmington. I think you would be surprised that it's actually something a lot of people are divided on because of those core male-dominated beliefs. And maybe you could even open up that conversation among the people that you go to church with or the people that you worship with and see what their stance is on it. And I think you would be very surprised to see the different stances on that. But to conclude, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So much progress has already been made, and women are going to continue to grow within religion just as they have within society.